Behind every legend lies a reason. This is Myth and Motive.
The air in the crowded room grew thick and metallic, like the taste of a copper penny on your tongue. He was recounting my childhood birthday party to my aunt, describing the exact pattern of the balloons and the flavor of the cake I'd long forgotten. My skin prickled, a cold sweat breaking out despite the room's warmth, as I realized he knew details no stranger could possibly know. Then, he turned his head, and his gaze locked directly onto mine through the crowd, his laughter dying on his lips. A damp, earthy scent, like turned soil after a rain, cut through the smells of food and perfume. The story he was telling wasn't just a memory. It was a private moment, one I had never spoken aloud, not even in a diary. In that silent, staring second, the cheerful noise of the reunion faded into a distant hum, replaced by a low, whispering static only I could hear. This man was wearing my grandfather's face, speaking with my uncle's voice, and he knew secrets buried with people in the ground. 22 years ago, this man stole my brother from us, and we all bore witness. My name is Sarah Miller. This is my family. The air in the room grew thick with the scent of old paper and ozone, as if a storm were gathering just beyond the window. A single, strained cello note hung in the silence, vibrating with a tension that made the very walls feel brittle. Her breath hitched, a small, sharp sound in the quiet, as the cold weight of the glass seeped into her palm. Our small Ohio town was the kind of place where everyone knew your business, where gossip traveled faster than the summer wind. Yet somehow, the most terrible secret of all festered right at our very heart, hidden in plain sight. My brother Jake was just 7 years old when he vanished without a trace. It happened at the annual 4th of July fair. One moment he was by the cotton candy stand, the sticky scent of sugar in the air, and the next, he was simply gone. The description was painfully vague. A man in a dark baseball cap. The case grew cold, a quiet, weeping wound on our family. My parents, Robert and Linda, never moved. They never changed their number. The missing poster on our fridge slowly yellowed, a silent countdown to nothing. Life simply grew around the void, like moss over a forgotten grave. I aged, my world shrinking to the sterile confines of a paralegal's office. My parents' marriage became a fragile alliance, its only binding a shared, unspoken grief. We abandoned large gatherings entirely. The collective anguish was overwhelming in crowded spaces. The shared grief felt like a tangible pressure, thickening the air until it was difficult to breathe. Then, last month, my cousin Mike decided the silence had gone on long enough. He organized a reunion, breaking our self-imposed exile with a single, decisive act. He thought he was helping. He even used one of those DNA service kits to find distant relatives, to make it bigger, to truly reconnect. It's time to be a family again, he'd said, his voice full of hopeful conviction. But the day was sunny, deceptively perfect. The air grew heavy, thick with the faint, metallic scent of ozone, like the moment before a storm. Then, a whisper of sound, not from outside, but from the very walls of the house. A faint, wet scratching, like fingers trailing through damp earth. A primal dread took hold, freezing him in place. He wasn't just reconnecting a family, he was opening a door. The backyard in Columbus was thick, with faces I only half recognized from faded memories. Then there were the strangers, Mike's DNA matches, their features unsettlingly familiar. That's when my gaze froze. He stood by the grill with my Uncle Dave, a figure that shouldn't have been there. He introduced himself as Paul Anderson, a supposed third cousin from out west, his kind face and gentle eyes belying something else entirely. There was something about the way he stood, the slight tilt of his head when he listened, that felt rehearsed. A scent of dry earth and old leather clung to him, carried on the still air. Then I saw my mother freeze, a plate of potato salad trembling in her hands, her knuckles bone white. Her smile didn't fade. It simply withered on her lips. My father's laughter choked off mid-breath. They exchanged a single glance, a silent, terrifying message passing between them. I followed their line of sight toward the source of their terror. Paul's hands worked the grill, flipping burgers with practiced ease. On his right wrist, visible as he turned a patty, lay a distinct scar. The line was faded but jagged, a stark, pale fissure against his skin. It spoke of an old violence, a memory etched not just in flesh, but in the very air around him. My blood turned to ice. In every childhood photo, in every police report, we mentioned it. The man who took Jake had reached out from a car window. My father, grabbing at him, had scratched him deeply, right on the wrist. My mother had described that exact scar 1,000 times to detectives. The air left the party. A sudden, iron smell cut through the perfume and smoke as the primal dread of recognition took hold. For the rest of us, my parents, Aunt Carol, Uncle Dave, the original family, we drifted through the afternoon like specters. We offered hollow smiles and polite nods, our movements automatic. But our focus never wavered from Paul. Every gaze was fixed on him, a silent, collective dread holding us captive. He was charming. He brought my mother a drink, discussing football with my father. Yet with each pleasant exchange, I saw the same horrified recognition flicker in their eyes. A sickly, sweet scent, like ozone and decay, began to taint the air. Their forced laughter grew thin, a brittle sound masking a primal dread. He was here, in our home, eating our food, and they were letting him. The scent of reheated casseroles lingered, tainted now with the metallic tang of violation. Later, in the kitchen's sterile light, I cornered my mother. The air between us grew thick and cold, a palpable wall of unspoken dread. Her trembling hands fumbled with the glass under the faucet. A faint scent of ozone hung in the air, sharp and unnatural. Her breath hitched as her gaze fixed on something unseen. Narrator. Mom, the scar. You see it, right? Her voice was a fractured whisper. Eyes locked on the figure outside. The scent of damp earth and something faintly metallic hung in the air between us. That's him, she uttered, each word brittle with a recognition that turned my stomach. Then, brokenly, she pleaded, Sarah, please. Her gaze never wavering from the horror outside. Don't, narrator. Don't. He took Jake. Then my father entered, his face ashen, the color drained as if he'd seen a ghost. He put a hand on my arm, his grip too tight, fingers digging in like iron bands. Robert. It's not him, Sarah. You're mistaken. The police investigated. Paul has an alibi for that day. He was in Michigan, but his eyes screamed the truth. Their fear wasn't for Paul. It was for me.
For what I might become. The scent of cold earth and iron filled the space between us. A primal dread held them motionless, their breaths shallow and trapped in their throats. Every whispered shift in the dark was a promise of the violence I contained. The party was dwindling, the last guests exchanging hollow farewells as Paul approached me. He wore that familiar, placid smile, but the air around him felt unnaturally still and cold. A faint scent of ozone and damp earth clung to him, out of place in the warm, perfumed room. His voice was a soft, measured whisper that cut through the remaining chatter.
You must be Sarah. Your family is truly wonderful. I'm so grateful Mike found me. I lost my own family young. This welcome means the world to me. The air thickened with a scent of damp earth and old paper. His extended hand hovered, pale and steady. A subtle, metallic odor of iron lingered beneath his words. The scar stood out like a pale brand against his skin. In that jagged line, I saw Jake's missing face. Across the deck, my parents' eyes held a frozen, pleading terror. Their silent, desperate plea was clear. Shake his hand. To let him go. I couldn't. The words clawed up my throat, searing and savage. A cold, metallic scent hung in the air, thick as the dread coiling in my gut. Narrator. Where is he? The smile on Paul's face didn't falter. A fixed, waxy mask that felt sticky to the touch of my gaze. His eyes cooled like a stove clicking off. He leaned in, the air turning sharp and metallic, like ozone before a storm. His voice dropped to a soft, calm whisper meant only for me. Your parents are good people, Sarah. They craved a son who could blend in, who wasn't afflicted, who wouldn't shame them. They loved him. In their own hollow way, a faint scent of antiseptic and old paper clung to the air. Their affection was a quiet, calculated thing, measured in hushed tones and locked doors. The words hung in the air like a toxic vapor. They just loved their perfect life more. His public smile snapped back into place, a mask of polished porcelain. He patted my shoulder, his touch cold and impersonal through my jacket. Then, with a booming, cheerful voice that didn't match his eyes, he declared, So great to meet you. We'll see each other soon, I'm sure. He turned and walked away, his footsteps unnaturally precise on the pavement. The scent of ozone and car exhaust lingered where he'd stood. I watched him get in, start the engine, and drive off, leaving me alone with a creeping, formless dread that clung to the space he'd occupied. I stood there, rooted to the spot, his words echoing in the hollowed-out space where my childhood used to be. I turned slowly toward my parents, the air thick with the scent of old dust and something metallic. All pretense had vanished, leaving only raw devastation etched across their features. They clung to each other as if the floor might give way, their silent horror more terrifying than any sound. The terror was not for the victims, but for those who had helped make this happen. The police report I filed the next morning was fraught with complications. The air in the station carried the scent of stale coffee and ozone from the flickering fluorescence. Paul Anderson's alibi, however, was disturbingly perfect. The bank records were there, the gas receipts were stamped, witnesses placed him in Michigan, yet the man with the scar from the fair had simply never existed. My parents won't speak to me now, their silence thick and cloying like the scent of ozone before a storm. Every document, every account, every memory of that encounter felt like a damp, sticky residue clinging to my skin. A primal dread took hold as the world I knew began to fray at the edges, unraveled by an absence that should have been a man. My Uncle Dave has vanished into silence, his phone ringing endlessly into the void. The family has drawn a tight, suffocating circle, shutting me out completely. But the truth seeped through their wall of secrets, carried on strands of genetic code. Mike's DNA service delivered a cold, undeniable fact. Paul Anderson shares my blood. It was a near miss, a hair's breadth from disaster. A metallic scent of ozone hung in the air, cold and sharp against the skin. The screen split, revealing a ghost from the past. In the left frame, a child's innocent smile. In the right, a chilling echo of a face, now circled in accusation. Side by side, the features share an uncanny resemblance. The same haunting shape to the eyes, the identical curve of the brow, which leaves me with the only question that truly matters. If the man who drove away with Jake that day wasn't a stranger, then what, exactly, did my family welcome back into our home?
If the legend hooked you, subscribe and open the next case.